Hello and welcome to the RealTime Fantasy Sports Show. I'm Jeff Paur, senior writer with RealTime Fantasy Sports. On today's show, I'm going to give you 5 of my fantasy takeaways from week 13 of the fantasy football season. First of all, I hope you had a great Thanksgiving holiday. It's a lot of fun this week with all the games spread out throughout the week. We didn't have any buys as well. Got to watch some good football on Thanksgiving. Got a good game on Friday as well. And it was just a good week of football. So hopefully you had success this week. Won your games. It's a crucial time of year. We just have a couple weeks left in the regular season for fantasy. So hopefully you came out on top this week and you're sitting good for the fantasy playoffs. All right, here are 5 of my takeaways for this week. My first one is Joe Burrow is back. 24-46 for 261 yards and 2 touchdowns without a turnover in his big game against the Ravens. A lot of people were worried about Burrow in his first game back from injury, but he looked good. I would feel really good about him for the stretch run. Remember, he had a great finish to last year. He carried a lot of fantasy teams to championships. Maybe this is a repeat this year. So if you were able to hold on while he was out with injury, you could be sitting good for the rest of the season. And remember, this past week, he was without T. Higgins for the game. So hopefully he is back this week just to give more firepower to that offense. But Joe Burrow's back. I'd feel pretty good if I had him on my fantasy team right now, and I got a chance to make the playoffs. My next takeaway for this week is it's officially time to panic if you are a Justin Jefferson owner. New starting quarterback for the Vikings this week. Same old bad production for Jefferson. He had just 2 catches for 4 yards. That was maybe his worst game of his entire career. He scored just 2.4 fantasy points. He has less than double-digit fantasy points 2 straight games. And 3 of 4, it's just a terrible situation right now in Minnesota because of that awful quarterback situation they've dealt with all season long. And Jefferson is definitely suffering, even though he's getting a huge target share on a weekly basis. They just can't connect with him. It's a bad situation. Jefferson's going to end up being one of the all-time busts for fantasy owners this year. On the flip side, my next takeaway is a positive, and it's the Cowboys offense. Might be the best fantasy offense in football. I can't remember a fantasy offense this good across the board. Think about it. Dak Prescott, he's a top 10 fantasy quarterback right now. Javonte Williams, he's been top 10 most of the season. Both receivers, CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens. I know Lamb's numbers aren't in the top 10 because he's been hurt throughout the year at different times, but they are top 10 fantasy receivers as well. They've produced big on a weekly basis, even when they're together. And then you can't forget about Jake Ferguson, who is actually second in fantasy tight end scoring coming into the week 13 game. So they have top 10 players at all the key positions across the board. I'm not sure I remember an offense being this good from a fantasy perspective at all the key positions like the Cowboys are this year. It's an unbelievable offense. They're rolling. All these positions have just produced for fantasy teams. So if you have any Cowboys, you got to be feeling pretty good about your team for this year. My next takeaway for this week is the Browns need to overhaul their entire offensive coaching staff. That is just brutal to watch, that offense. 2 4th down and 1 plays that were just awful in that game. The one they tried to sneak it with the tight end, he fumbled the ball. The other one was a slow developing run. Just absolutely awful play calling. Shadur Sanders, I don't think he's the answer at quarterback, but they're not really giving him a chance to make any plays down the field. How many dump offs and screens can you run in a game? It's absolutely brutal to watch. And the worst part is that defense is absolutely outstanding. They're just wasting it because of an awful offense. I know they lack some talent offensively. Don't get me wrong. They're lacking some players at receiver, and they obviously need a franchise quarterback, but still, it's just hard to watch. They have to open it up a little bit. Just give them a chance to make plays. It's just brutal, especially if you consider how good that defense is. Just absolutely awful. I feel sorry for those Cleveland fans. They're a long-suffering franchise, and they just want to win games, and that defense is outstanding, but offense is definitely holding them back. Hopefully they can get some fantasy-relevant offensive players going forward, but right now it's not good outside Quinshon Judkins. My last takeaway for this week is that Houston Texans offense is really starting to click. C.J. Stroud returned from his concussion this week, and he played really well. 22 of 35 for 276 yards. He didn't score a touchdown, and he did throw an interception, but I thought he looked good in that game. Woody Marks is really emerging as a legit lead back. Nico Collins, he's the elite number one receiver that we all have hoped for this year. He's back healthy, 5 catches for 98 yards in this game. And Jaden Higgins has emerged as a legit number 2 to take some of the pressure off Nico Collins in the passing game. He had 5 catches for 65 yards in the game this week. And Dalton Schultz is having a nice rebound season this year as well. But the big issue why this offense is playing better, the offensive line. They're giving Stroud a lot more time to throw. They're blocking better for Woody Marks as well. That's been the whole key to the offense, in my opinion. But it's starting to click. CJ Stroud's looking a lot better, made some decisive throws this week. I think I would feel good if you have any Texans playmakers on your roster right now, because I think things are really starting to go the right way for them. And they can make a strong run here at the end of the season and into the playoffs. All right, those are 5 of my fantasy takeaways for week 13 of the fantasy football season. Hope you had a lot of success this week and won all your games. This has been Jeff Paur for RealTime Fantasy Sports.